Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. Got you covered. Traditional league, dynasty league, PPR league, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
Welcome in, everybody, to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Emmett Wyman, and we are going to dive into some Week 5 fantasy talk. Man, I mean, I say this every podcast. You probably want me to shut up about it now, but how many, guys, this season is going. It's going. It's going to be gone before you know it, so let's capitalize on these moments. Let's capitalize on these picks. Let's capitalize on these players, everything. Let's capitalize it. Let's enjoy it, most importantly, while it's here, because it'll be gone tomorrow. And with the way sports are going, I mean, basketball's about to end. I mean, the Heat tied it up, so it'll be an interesting game. Or didn't tie it up, but won, so it'll be an interesting game. 6 coming up on Sunday. I don't know why the heck NBA would schedule a game on football Sunday. That's like the dumbest thing you could possibly do, but I'm not Adam Silver. So you got that. Baseball's in the playoffs, so they're going to be done in a month, or if not less. Football's football. Hockey's already done. I mean, they're probably restoring their bodies. And there's no sports. So, I mean, the only sports we're going to have in a month is going to be football. I mean, all the other sports are going to be on the break. I mean, college basketball, I don't know if you guys like that, but that's going to be coming up. Not even, conference plays aren't going to even be coming up till January. So we're going to have a drab couple months, guys. But I'll tell you what, football's here, and that's the best sport of all. So we all know that. So at least we have that. So cherish it, enjoy it while it's here. And let's not waste more time saying that. But we got a great show for you guys today. We got the usual. It's the usual. You know the usual. I mean, if this is your first Emmett Wyman GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, welcome. But you should go back and watch the other ones. I highly suggest that, just so you can get a little interpretation of my style and what I think about these players. But this is nothing new. So we're going to do starts and sits next segment. We're going to do the DFS and betting segment third, and then in the last segment we'll do our weekly rankings. The usual, giving you the top 10 at each positions and why I like them. Shout out to my boy Kayvon Izami over there on the GSMC Football Podcast. Going to be going on that show tomorrow. Saying some of the same stuff that I'm saying now, but this podcast, I'm going to go, obviously, in depth with everything. We got an hour, so we're going to go through very thoroughly all these matchups and players and try to get you guys ready to go for Week 5. Before we get into that, though, let's talk about that. I mean, I always like to recap the Thursday night game just because it seems like it just gets worse and worse as it goes on. I mean, I didn't think it'd get any worse in that Jets game last week. I mean, Jets are down by 8. They throw 3 interceptions. I mean, Brett Rypien throws 3 interceptions. The Broncos still won that. That just shows how sorry that game is, and as long as the Jets. But, I mean, how about the game last night? I mean, it was embarrassing. If you're Tampa, embarrassing. Okay, I mean, pretty much everybody in the world thought the Bucs are going to win. I don't blame you. The Bears looked like absolute dog crap. Their offense was horrible. I mean, the run game is horrible. Nick Foles is horrible. I mean, what's there not to like about the Bucs, right? So, game goes on. Bucs probably the first 20 minutes of the game are rolling. Defense is doing good. Offense is looking good. The only thing that they could take back is probably scoring on those red zone drives. But they're up 13-0. They're pounding them. Everybody's confident. Then, boom. Bears come back, one lucky drive. It happens, right? 13-7. Tampa's ready to go out there. They're thinking, all right, we'll get a little quick score before the half, get up 16-7, we'll be good. Boom! Turn the ball over. You cannot do that if you're Tom Brady and the offense. I mean, look, fumbles are fumbles. They're going to happen, but that's just inexcusable. You cannot fumble in your own territory right before the half because that's just a huge momentum swing, and then that allowed Chicago to really control the middle eight. And for those of you that don't know what the middle eight is, basically the first 4 minutes of the third quarter and the last 4 minutes of the second quarter. So essentially the middle 8 minutes of the game. And you may think, well, why is that important? Because Chicago was able to get the ball. If I remember, I think they were able to get the ball. So if you can go into the locker room, you're down 13-7, all right? You're the Bears. You get the ball, and then you go score. You go up 14-3, and then you got the ball coming out. That's a huge momentum swing. I mean, that could totally change the course of a game. So when you're able to get 3 possessions, essentially, back to back to back, because they got the one on the fumble, and then they're going to get the one going into the kickoff, I mean, that could totally swing the momentum. And, of course, they go 14-13. They pretty much, I think they kick a field goal on the opening drive. They're just stagnant on offense. I think they're pretty much just shell-shocked. And Tampa is just such a mess. I mean, they are literally just a collection of talent. They have no design that's matching what Brady wants. Brady looks lost out there. He's looking like he wants, like, where's Josh McDaniels? I mean, yeah, he doesn't know what to do. I mean, he really doesn't know what to do. Even though he's 40 years old, he knows it all. I mean, I'm telling you, there's a huge difference between Josh McDaniels, Bill Belichick, compared to Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich. Who knows if Leftwich is even calling the plays. But looking at Brady, I mean, he looked lost. I mean, I know that's a stupid meme going around of him holding up the 4th down. But I mean, that's just a clear example of what is going on in Tampa. I mean, Tampa has no direction. I don't think they're going anywhere just because I don't think they know what they're doing. I don't think the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback are on. It seems like they're all running 3 separate playbooks. Bruce has his vertical playbook. Byron's doing whatever he does, and then Brady wants to run, the New England offense. I mean, it doesn't mesh. It doesn't mesh. I mean, Mike Evans is going to make plays regardless because we talked about him. I mean, you don't need to really watch tape to know Mike Evans is a good player. You could watch probably about like 10 plays. You could figure that out pretty easily. They don't have Godwin out there, so your vertical threat, your deep threat's really challenged. I mean, Tampa's they're just a mess. They're honestly just a mess. And the Bears, I mean, oh my God, they're so dreadful to watch. I mean, they're 4-1, which is really incredible. But I mean, I recapped this earlier in the week. How about that game versus the Colts? I mean, they were so stagnant on offense, they couldn't do anything. Anything. Nick Foles played absolutely horrible, showed no anticipation, showed basically nothing that he was in Philly compared to there. I mean, he was just a totally different quarterback. I mean, the only thing good on that offense is Allen Robinson. And Robinson is just a really good receiver that's just been put in bad situations. I mean, he had the Jaguars early on in his career with Blake Bortles, who couldn't do anything. And then now he's got Mitch and freaking Nick Foles and Matt Nagy. I mean, Matt Nagy, he's the thing, too. I really like Matt Nagy. I think he was really creative. I think he's really aggressive. He's got a really good offensive mind for what you want to do in 2020 NFL football. But, I mean, my God. Have you guys seen him look at the field once? I mean, it seems like every time they put the cameras on him, he's looking at his play sheet. Seriously, I mean, he's literally looking down at his play sheet every time they put the cameras on him. And you guys think, why does that matter? I mean, there has to be some sort of tempo control and rhythm to calling a game. And I'm not really the one to say what you should do in terms of what the exact play call is. But I'm going to tell you this right now. That offense has no rhythm. I mean, Matt Nagy is literally just calling plays like it's Madden. Same with Zach Taylor. They're doing the same thing. They're so dived in to their play sheet that they don't even know what the game's going. They don't even know what's going on. They don't even know what the score is. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. How do you expect these head coaches get paid all this money? They can't even call a game right. I mean, really? I mean, there's some high school coaches that call better games. I mean, heck, and they only got about 4 or 5 plays to work with. I mean, Matt Nagy, he's got all the plays in the world, but the thing is, they don't work. I mean, how many freaking reverses are you going to do? Like, what are we doing here? We're trying to trick a defense? I mean, this is Chicago Bears. Hit somebody in the dang mouth. Knock them over. I mean, have you ever watched the 1985 Bears? I mean, that's physical football. Old school. Knock somebody over. This is Chicago. You're playing like we're in freaking South Beach, Florida. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, the direction of their offense, what they're doing. I mean, for fantasy perspective, look, I'm going to tell you like this. I recommended not to draft any of the Bucs receivers pre-draft. If you didn't draft Godwin, that's a good thing. If you didn't draft Evans, it's okay. But Evans is injury prone, so I don't really trust him. We talked about how bad O.J. Howard and Rob Gronkowski are. Obviously, they didn't do anything. I mean, I don't trust any players on any of those teams except for Allen Robinson. He's the only player I would take. I wouldn't take any of those players. I mean, Ronald Jones, you know, he's productive, but I just don't see him as being very efficient, and he fumbled the ball. He can't be fumbling the ball, so how am I supposed to trust that? I know Fournette's coming back, so he's going to take into his carries. I mean, there's really nobody I would take. I mean, Montgomery, he was one that I was like, hey, what's the deal with him? Maybe he's going to be good. I was pretty high on him as a rookie, but, man, I'm wrong on him. I mean, either it's the running scheme or him. I think it's both. But it's still, he has not been productive at all. He had the touchdown, but, I mean, come on. That touchdown was 3 yards out. I mean, the guy he barely rushed for like 30 yards in the game. So that's not really the running back you want. I don't know. That's my thoughts on the game. As I look at that, we're already 11 minutes in, so I'll save the rest of the talk for while we get into these starts and sits, guys. But you know me, I want to spend a lot of time on these starts and sits. We got a lot of names to go through, and we'll try to recap some stuff as we go along. But let's take a break. We'll get into the starts and sits because it's going to be a long segment. While this break is going on, get your pen and paper or load up your computer with the fantasy team, guys. Don't play around. Get this information down because it's going to make you some hay. All right, so we'll be right back, and we'll get in these starts and sits.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. We are going to get into the starts and sits of the week, going by position, quarterback, receiver, tight end, backs. You guys know the drill. Let's get right into it. Starting off with the quarterbacks I like this week on the start list, Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, guys, how do you not start every player playing the Falcons? All right, did you guys see the Falcons last week on Monday Night Football? I mean, I was texting K. Vaughn, the Falcons fan, during the game. I mean, he stopped messaging to me. That's how sad it got. I mean, he's over there talking about, the coach stinks and Dirk Cotter's awful. And, I mean, they're on the practice team corners and safeties. I get that part. But, I mean, man, it just seems like that team is quit. They just quit. I mean, they literally look like they quit. Julio Jones pulled a hammy. I mean, it looked like I don't know the pain of it, right? But it looked like you could play through it. If it was a playoff game, he would have came back. But he didn't even bother. He said, I'm done. I'm chilling. Let me get some cocoa. Let me sit out. He didn't even bother. Calvin Ridley, he didn't even want to catch the ball. I mean, guy on the first play of the game, he's dropping the ball. Matty Ice, I'm not going to say he quit, but I don't know what the heck he's doing. You scared to fire the ball, dude? You're on 3. What do you got to lose? Fire that thing. Let's go. You're playing Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. But Atlanta Falcons are just, to me, a very hopeless team. They're a hopeless team. They're a team that you could basically rule out and bet against and play their players against every single time. If you are an owner of some Falcons players like Ridley, Julio, myself, I'd be worried. And I'm very worried about Julio because I just don't think he's going to – it's going to be like A.J. Green last year. I just don't think he's going to want to play. Like, he's got the title. He's got the Julio. He's got the gold jacket. So he's going to be cut a lot of breaks. And if he doesn't want to play, he's not going to play. He's still going to get paid. And with an 0-4 team, I don't blame you if you don't want to play. But, man, I'd really want you to play for some fantasy points. But, going back to Bridgewater, you got everything working for you. You got a D-line that's hurt. The secondary's horrible. Your receivers are good. Robbie Anderson's a lot better than I expected. He could really stretch the field. DJ Moore, I've always liked him as a receiver. I think their weapons can beat Atlanta secondary easy. I think Davis will provide some balance in the running game. I think there's a lot to like about Bridgewater this week. Justin Herbert, man, what a quarterback. I don't want to go out and say this guy's the next Drew Brees, but, man, he looked good. He looked really good versus Tampa. There were some throws that were really impressive, and I think he's got a lot. I really liked him a lot coming out. I thought he was going to come out in 2019, and that would really scared me because I thought the Giants were going to get him. That's like the one team. Don't make sure he doesn't go to the Giants. And I think Justin Herbert himself, really looked at that and said, "Oops, this is not going to be good. I don't want to go to the Giants. Let me go back to college and try another team." And, the Chargers are a little bit better, but I don't know if they're really going anywhere with Anthony Lynn. But at least they're going to build around Herbert going forward because he's the guy. Clearly better than Tyrod Taylor, but I was really impressed by him. I was really impressed. And I like Herbert this week. I think he can take advantage of his matchup. Phillip Rivers, I like him as well. Phillip Rivers, he throws the football like it's a boulder, man. It's really, he is so washed. He is washed, but you can move the football versus the Browns. I'm telling you, this secondary is not good at all. They're lost. I don't think they're really up to speed on their defense and what they want to do. So I think it's easy to move the ball on them through the air, and I think Rivers will be able to do that because his run game will always be intact. The running backs he has, the offensive line he has, he's going to always be able to move the football versus them. So I think it'll be a good day for Rivers. If you can get a veteran quarterback versus that secondary, he'll figure it out. So just, maybe get in the weight room, Rivers, get some ice on that shoulder. I don't know what you got to do, man, but loosen that arm up because there's going to be some opportunities for you. And last quarterback, none other than number 4, the best quarterback in the league, Dak Prescott. If you have him on your team, you might win your league. That's all I can say. How do you not start him every week? Isn't this 3 games in a row he's had 40 points? 40 points. 40. That was more than Lamar last year. And he won the MVP. So that's all I got to say about quarterbacks that I like. Quarterbacks I don't like, Baker Mayfield. You guys know me, but you guys know that I don't like Baker Mayfield at all. I think he's overrated. Oklahoma basically made him look like a superstar. He's not a superstar. He's not athletic. He's a walk-on. Okay, guys, he's a walk-on. Does that mean he's some punk? No. But when you're a walk-on, you're not a good athlete. All right, I could be a walk-on. Compared to Kyler Murray, at least with Kyler Murray, when he's rolling right, he's a huge threat to run. He could make somebody miss if he has to. When Baker Mayfield is out there rolling right, defensive ends are catching up to him. All right, he's not fast at all. He's easy to tackle. But the other quarterbacks that went there, they're anything but. They're very hard to tackle. And a lot of the lead quarterbacks in this league are very hard to tackle, and I don't think Mayfield is hard to tackle at all. So I just don't like him at all. I think the Colts are really going to present a big challenge for him. Matt Eberflus with that Tampa 2, man. I wish he was over here in Dallas with our crummy defense. But he's out there doing his thing, and that defense looked real good. I mean, they basically held Chicago to 3 last week, and then they came back and scored on that backdoor touchdown. Well, not really a backdoor. The spread was 3, but they came back and scored at the end with Robinson to get that 19-11. I had him on a teaser. But we'll save the betting for the third segment. I just love thinking about spreads for some reason. Maybe I got to think of another hobby. But I mean, that's all. That's my age. When Sunday comes, it's spreads and fantasy. That's all I can think of. So I don't know if you guys are the same. Hopefully you are, because you're going to like this podcast. And then my other quarterback I don't like Derek Carr. I mean, you guys know that too. I don't think he's good at all. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't extend plays. He's not Rich Gannon. And I think John Gruden thinks he's Rich Gannon or wants him to be like Rich Gannon. He's not. Okay? He's not. He's Derek Carr. He's Derek freaking Carr. And it's not like Derek Carr's amusing anybody. But for the Raiders, I think they're just in a world of trouble. They have a lot of injury problems. People are really starting to see that Darren Waller is a big-time threat, so they're just doubling him every game, taking him away from Derek Carr. I mean, it's really him and then the run game. And I think last week Buffalo really played them well on defense and gave them a lot of problems. And I think a lot of people see that that's going to be the blueprint for beating Carr. So, I mean, Mayfield and Carr are just like in the same class. I just don't like them, period. I wouldn't want him to be my quarterback of the team. So you could sit them and don't look back. I don't think anybody's really starting either of those two anyway. Let's go on to some receivers now. Receivers I like. I love the Vikings receivers. Thielen, Jefferson, they both got juice. I mean, Thielen is doing really well this year statistically. He's got some touchdowns. I mean, he's the number one threat in that offense. You expect him to do a lot. He's just got to stay healthy. Jefferson, he's really starting to break out. I liked him a lot as one of the late round picks. You know, him, Deontay, guys like that. But I think Jefferson's really starting to break out, and you're going to see a big play from him in this game versus Seattle, just due to the fact that Seattle is just horrible on defense. I mean, we talked about this before. It's Bobby Wagner, it's Jamal Adams, it's KJ Wright, and that's it. I mean, they have Shaquem Griffin, who's okay. They have some other corners that are pretty blah. I mean, their pass rush is 0, so Cousins will have time. He's not going to get it in the face, so he can sit back and throw the ball to whoever. Dalvin Cook will get going in the run game, and I think Seattle's going to have a lot of problems with that, but we'll see how it goes. I like those two this week, and I think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game up there in Seattle. So I like both. I might as well put both of them in there. I like Seahawks receivers too. I mean, Minnesota, they're the same. I mean, they're young. They're very young on defense. I don't think they really understand their assignments yet. I don't think they really understand what a Mike Zimmer defense is, and this Zim defense has just not been good this year. It just hasn't. And I think a lot of teams are picking on the fight. Even the Texans. The freaking Texans. The Texans. I mean, did I talk about O'Brien last podcast? No, I put it out before it happened. Or no. Yeah, I talked about O'Brien last podcast. I was about to say. But, I mean, just the low-effort Texans were able to score 23 points with no receivers versus the Vikings. So I think Russell Wilson will come in there and do whatever he wants. DK will probably have a touchdown. Lockett will probably have a touchdown. So probably good plays on DFS, but they're going to be actually not, because they're going to be so expensive. But I think for year-long fantasy, absolutely start both of those receivers if you got them, and start the Vikings receivers. Let's go to a different game. Let's go to the Cowboys game. Start all the Cowboys receivers. It's the Giants, guys. Giants can't do anything. Giants can't block. They can't cover. They can't run a play. They can't score a touchdown. They can barely kick a field goal right. I mean, it's embarrassing, the Giants. If the Cowboys lose, I said this before, if the Cowboys lose, delete the franchise. Jerry, you should just go underground and never be seen again if that happens. But I don't think it'll happen as much as people want it to happen. I know Giants fans are definitely inside. They're not saying it. They're not going to say it because they don't want to be get clowned at. I mean, I don't know what you got to lose if you're a Giant fan. I mean, you're a clown if you are a Giant fan to begin with. But if you're the Giants, I mean, you're deep down. We got a shot. Ooh, we might have a shot. You don't got a shot. All right. I think the Cowboys do whatever they want. They're going to come out hungry. I think they're going to come out mad. I mean, last week was pretty embarrassing. It was really embarrassing, especially on defense. And we'll talk about the defenses later. But I think the whole team's going to come out mad, and they're just going to roll over the Giants. And I think the Giants, they're a little bit on their high horse, too, because they thought they almost beat the Rams. I mean, really, they should have beat the Rams. Jared Goff, you are so bad. I mean, like, I'm not even afraid to say it anymore. Like, dude, you stink. Like, you're like Dwayne Haskins. You stink. You stink. Straight up. Jared Goff is awful, guys. Horrible. Worst quarterback in the 2016 draft. Not even close. In terms of, if we're talking about the starters, obviously not the entire class, but just the guy starting Wednesday, you get the point. But, I mean, he was horrible last week. The Rams as a whole were horrible. Their defense was okay. I mean, the Giants were held to 9. But, again, it's a 90s offense. It's a 90s offense. Jason... How many times I got to say this, guys? Jason Garrett runs a 90s offense. Jason Garrett runs a 90s. I'm going to freaking go blue in the face saying it. I mean, I got 16 weeks to say it, so I guess I was 17. I guess 16 will only see it, but still, like, the Giants aren't going to score. They can't. Their quarterback stinks. Saquon Barkley's gone. Their line doesn't block. Their receivers aren't fast. How are you going to score? Okay? I mean, Jason Garrett, even if he designed the best plays and really tried to help his quarterback, which he's not, like, it wouldn't work. But the fact that he's not even doing anything to help Daniel Jones, anything, call something, call a boot. I mean, come on, Jason Garrett, what are you doing? But I want to say, I was on that note, I want to say, pick the Giants receivers, but I can't trust it. I can't trust them. Like, how am I supposed to trust Golden Tate, the Cowboy Killer? Just because he's a Cowboy Killer? Maybe. But, I mean, I know the secondary is so bad on Dallas, and we talked about how they're Swiss cheese and this and that. But, I mean, the Giants are so bad on offense. It's like they might not even score versus Clemson. It's crazy. It's crazy. This is 2 games in a row the Giants haven't scored a touchdown. You guys realize that? 2 games in a row, no touchdowns for the Giants. No touchdowns in 2 weeks. How is that possible in the NFL today? Even on, like, the final drive of the game, if you're getting blown out, a team will play a prevent defense and just say, just take it. Just take it. We're trying to run the game off the clock. We don't care. We don't have the over. We don't care. Just take a score. Go ahead. Let us get the ball back. Neil, get out of here. They can't even score on those drives. Like, Dallas might put 10 on the field. They still can't score. Like, it's incredible. But, I mean, anyway, back to the point. I know I get off on my Giants tangents. But I would say Slayton is a maybe. But all the Cowboys receivers, you got to start. I mean, you just got to start them. The Giants stink. We all know that. But that's all I can think of in terms of guys I like. Guys I don't like. I don't like Julio and Ridley just because they're on the Falcons, and the Falcons are hopeless. The Bengals receivers, I don't like them at all. I don't like their matchup this week. I don't think they're going to do really well. A.J. Green, I talked about him. You should just drop him at this point. And then Browns receivers versus the Colts, I don't like him at all. Odell, he's going to come back down to earth. Okay, we had his career game last week, this, that, he celebrated. He's on Twitter doing this and that. It's over, okay? It was 1 week. It's over. It's going to come back down to earth, so you can bench him this week if you got a better option. And I mean, bench him as in, like, if you got another solid wide receiver, too, coming back. Don't bench him for, like, a bump. Bench him for a decent player if you have that option. If you don't, okay, play him. But you guys get the point. We're running out of... Jesus. I spent 10 minutes on the freaking Giants. How does that happen? Let's move on. Let's get some tight ends in here. Ian Thomas, again, Panthers player. Why not start him? He's playing the Falcons. Hunter Henry versus the Saints. I mean, the Saints are just... The analytics say the Saints are horrible at covering tight ends. And when I watched Darren Waller play them, I kind of agree with that statistic because they just don't care about the middle of the field. They're going to let it be wide open, and I think Herbert's going to take advantage of it and do his thing. So I expect Herbert to not only get some points versus Saints through the air, I expect Hunter Henry to be the main contributor to those points. And Henry's a really good player and a receiver, but he just can't stay healthy. That's the thing. So when he's healthy, he's good. So we'll see what he brings. Mo Alley-Cox, we talked about him a couple podcasts ago being a sleeper. Alley-Cox, man, he's coming on strong. I mean, he's getting his red zone targets. He's got 3 games in a row now, I think, with a touchdown. Phillip Rivers, very tight end friendly quarterback. So I think it all adds up in Alley-Cox's favor. It's a good pickup. And good starter this week, I think, because he might get another touchdown and keep the streak rolling. So, good player, Alley-Cox. Not bad for the Colts. And then Darren Waller the baller, versus the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs, they're just very overrated on defense. They could rush. They could maybe create some turnovers here and there, but I just think their defense as a whole is overrated. And listen, when you got Pat Mahomes, what do you got to do on defense? You got to get 3 stops and you're good. So I think Darren Waller, they're going to try to double him, but I mean, oh my God, if they put the freaking honey badger on him, give me a break. Waller would score 20 if that's the case, but I don't know what they're going to do. We'll see, but I think he'll have a good game versus the Chiefs. Guys I don't like this week, of course, the Browns. Sit all the Browns players this week. Sit Mayfield, Odell, Hooper. Sit everybody. Sit Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb's obviously hurt. I mean, but these guys, I mean, they just don't have a good matchup. I mean, the Colts are really going to shut them down, I think, and they're going to have their way. So Colts might be a good bet straight up. You never know. Mike Gesicki, I think he's just gone quiet. I don't know what's happened. I liked him early on, but he's gone quiet. So I'm going to stay away from Gesicki and put him on the bench. And then Hayden Hurst, he's another guy who had a couple good games, and he's done. I mean, it just doesn't look good. So, especially with him being on the Falcons, you can put him on the bench and rock out with someone else. That's all I can think of for tight ends. Let's get some running backs because we're already almost up to 20 minutes on here just talking about BS. But running backs I really like this week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire versus the Raiders. The Raiders they're an easy defense to score on. I mean, I don't think John Gruden and Paul Gunter really understand how to build that defense. They're kind of just plugging players in, trying to, hey, this guy's a good rusher. Hey, this guy's a good cover guy. I mean, they just don't understand how to build a defense. So I think the Chiefs will do whatever they want offensively on them. And they're going to really have to consider drafting a big lineman in the middle once they have Mahomes basically sitting in the pocket for 40 hours. But we'll see how that goes. I like Helaire, though. The only problem with Helaire is he doesn't get in the end zone, which is actually a big problem, but he gets a lot of yards rushing and receiving. This week, I think he'll get in the end zone, though, at least one time. So I'll start him this week if you got him. James Robinson, the surprise out of nowhere for fantasy this year. Great player. I mean, this guy comes out of nowhere. I didn't even talk about him. And just out of nowhere, he gets a starting job, and then he runs with it. And I just never saw him. Somebody else in my league picked him up, and I'm like, who's this guy? Like, yeah, whatever. And then I'm like, oh, wow, good pickup. Wasn't on that one. I should have been on that one because then that would have been my best claim to fame in this podcast. Oh, I told you to pick up James Robinson. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be one of those guys. So it's what it is with Robinson. But if you got him, start him because it's a good matchup. And Houston doesn't know what they're doing on defense, even though they got Big Romeo. I mean, Big Romeo, man. He's like the guy you want to have a burger with. He's not the guy you want running your defense. David Johnson, I like him. I think it's the same way. Jacksonville, they don't care about defense. They got the same D coordinator that Gus Bradley brought in. Gus Bradley, who won like 14 games in 4 years, they have that same defensive coordinator. Okay, that just shows Jaguars don't care about defense. Doug Marrone, Jay Gruden, they're just trying to score, see what they can do on offense. They know their jobs aren't going to last long, so they don't care. All right, they're going to let the defense do whatever. So I expect David Johnson to get in the end zone as well, and he'll put up some points versus Jacksonville. They're a very easy defense to score on. And I think O'Brien being gone will help David Johnson's case as well because it's going to allow him to get more touches. I think Romeo, as a defensive mind, will want to slow the game down and really get the running backs more involved. So we'll see, but I like DJ this week. And then Devin Singletary. I think he's a must-start every single week. This is like the third week in a row I've had him on this list. As long as Zach Moss isn't there, I know he's questionable to come back. I don't think they're going to play him, but I mean, if Singletary is a clear-cut starter, just start him. I mean, it's simple as that. Just start him. He gets rushing production, receiving production. He's good. He's good at both. So I like Singletary a lot when he's a clear-cut back. I just don't like him when Zach Moss is there because I don't like the committee. That'll screw up the volume. But those are the guys I like. Guys I don't like. I don't like Miles Sanders versus Steelers. I think that's obvious. I mean, why would you start him at all? Joe Mixon. I mean, look, he had that great game last week. Who was it versus? Jacksonville. Come on. That's going to come back down to earth. He'll be back at his 4 or 5 points. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think the 30-point game is going to happen again. So you can sit him down. Then Melvin Gordon. Philip Lindsay's going to come back. So, again, guy I didn't like in the draft process just because of Lindsay. He had his shine when Lindsay was gone, but Lindsay's coming back. So he'll come back down to earth and be the running back that we thought he is. And that's all I got, guys. 20 minutes in, 20 minutes out, just like that. We are done with starts and sits. Feels long, but it goes by quick. So let's take a break. My favorite segment coming up, the DFS and betting segment. Going to give you guys a lineup I like this week, as long as the lock of the week, which is 4-0. Might want to stay tuned.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to Extreme Cage Fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, everybody, to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. It is your boy, Emmett Wyman. Going to give you my favorite segment, the DFS and betting segment. Going to give you guys my optimal lineup this week, combined with my lock of the week. So let's get into DFS. We'll get into guys I like, and then we'll pick out the optimal lineup after I read the names. So quarterbacks I like, I always say spend a lot at the quarterback just to make sure you get the sure thing, and it'll probably do you better at the end. But I think this week it's going to do a little bit different. We're going to switch it up. Recapping last week's DFS, as I have it in front of me, we basically killed it. I mean, we really killed it. The only thing that really stopped us was the fact that Nick Chubb got hurt. If he didn't get hurt, everybody, and we would have had the best lineup of the week. We had Devin Singletary, who had a good game. Aaron Rodgers had a great game. We had Mike Davis, who had a great game. T.J. Hockenson did pretty well. Devontae Parker had 100 yards. Will Fuller had 100 yards and a touchdown. Rams defense held the Giants to no touchdowns. And then, what else do you guys want? Like, that's perfect. That's all. Like, it's literally players being productive at every single position. So write this down, guys. See if you can plug this in and see what you can get. So I like Russell Wilson, of course. We talked about him. How do you not like him versus Vikings? The Vikings don't know what they're doing on defense. Kyler Murray versus the Jets. Obviously, the Jets are the Jets. Like, do the Jets need an explanation for how bad they are? It says on the ESPN that the Jets are the third hardest matchup for quarterbacks. That makes no sense at all. I mean, that defense is just a defense that blitzes you. I mean, any quarterback who's above an amateur level like a Brett Ripien is going to know how to read a blitz and change the play call so they can get out of the blitz. It's not that hard. So the Jets, combined with the fact that they don't have NFL talent, should be an easy matchup for Kyler Murray. Kirk Cousins, I mean, again, we talked about how the Seahawks defense is very porous. They're easy to attack. So theoretically, Cousins would be a good play. But my number one play, I'm going to go with Bridgewater. Guys, it might not be the sexy option, but I'm telling you right now, Atlanta is so bad on defense, it could be me at quarterback, and we're going to get some points. Like, they just don't know what they're doing. That's why it's just so mind-boggling that Dan Quinn is still there. You're a defensive head coach, yet your defense couldn't do crap. They can't blitz. They can't put pressure on the quarterback. They can't cover anybody. They couldn't cover. Not only can they not cover me, I don't think they can even cover my brother, and he don't even play football or never has. So it's just embarrassing. Like, it's like, really? Like, this the product y'all putting out here? That's why I'm just feeling for my man Kayvon, man, because I know he's a diehard. He loves them dirty birds, so he's going to have to watch a bad one this Sunday. I think, honestly, I'm not going to say this to him, but I think the Panthers are going to put a pretty big beating on the Falcons. And that's just good. I think it's just due to the fact that they're tougher. They're tougher, and they want it more. The Falcons don't want it. They just want to go home. Season's over. They know they're not going anywhere. Panthers, they think they're actually going somewhere. They say, hey, we won 2 games without Christian McCaffrey. We might do something. That's what I think they're thinking. So we'll see. But I think Bridgewater has a great matchup. I was really impressed when I watched the tape on him last week. I watched the Panther versus Cardinals game. I was impressed because I kind of ruled Bridgewater out. He's got that bum knee. He's not going to be the same. His mobility looked a little bit better than it did with New Orleans. I was really impressed with that. I like the fact that he's really starting to command that offense. His leadership is great everywhere he goes. Everybody raves about the person he is, so people buy into him. The receivers like him. They want to go hard for him. After last week, if you're going to do that versus the Cardinals, you could easily do that versus the Falcons. So with the value you're getting, you can't pass up Bridgewater. I'm going to make him my quarterback this week. Going into running backs I like Zeke versus the Giants, but he's like $10,000, so it's not worth it. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, talked about him. James Robinson, I like him. David Johnson, I like him. Mike Davis, like him. I can go on and on. Singletary as well. But I think if I got to pick 2, I'm going to go expensive at running back this week. I'm going to go really expensive at running back because we're going cheap at quarterback, and we're going to go cheap. We're going to go cheap all around except for running back. We're going to spend all of our money on running back this week because I don't really have a guy. Maybe I'm missing the ball on somebody, but I don't have a guy that's just, a super cheap running back that's going to be out here doing big things. Mike Davis was cheap, but he's not cheap anymore because I think people know that he can play. He's not a good pick. I'm running down the names right now. I think we're just going to have to expend our money at running back, which is fine because we're going cheap at the other positions. So go ahead, grab Helaire. Hilaire's he's the most confident. If I got a number one play, it's probably him because he'll do whatever he wants to the Raiders defense if he's out on open space. They can't cover, nor can they defend run. And I think Helaire will impact the game both ways. So he'll have a lot of points this weekend. I'm confident with him. So let's write his name down to go with Bridgewater. Obviously, you're going to need 3, so we'll probably pick out 3 running backs. Put David Johnson down as well because David Johnson I think this is the game he's going to come back. This is going to be the game that'll be like his week 1 game where he comes out early, scores a touchdown, maybe gets a touchdown in receiving, which they've been bagging. Didn't I say earlier in the year, guys? Maybe I'm crazy. But I swear I said, if David Johnson doesn't get involved in the receiving game, then you can go ahead and fire Bill O'Brien. Well, so anyway, so I'm going to write down Helaire, and I'll write down DJ. So those are 2 running backs. And if I got to pick a third for the flex, I'm going to might go Robinson. That's really expensive at running back. We're almost spending over $20,000 just at the running back position, or $25,000, at the running back position. That's half your bankroll, but I'm telling you what, let's do it. Let's go Helaire, and then let's go Robinson, because I just think, let me save it, because this is going to tie into my lock of the week, so we'll save it for just 5 minutes. I can't hold it in because I'm so excited to tell you guys, but let's go DJ, and then let's do Robinson. So that'll be our 3 backs. Helaire, really expensive, but I'm going to give you guys some cheap options to balance this out. So, moving on to receivers, I think we have to pick a Panthers receiver. We have to pick one. And let's go with the cheaper one. Let's go with Robbie Anderson. Moore is doing good, but I think he's going to get the most attention. Anderson will get a deep ball versus the Falcons. I'm very confident saying that. There will be one play that Anderson will just break free for a 50-yard, 40-yard touchdown. I'm very confident saying that. So let's put him in. He's very cheap. He's barely 4,000. So nobody even cares about him. So we'll just put him in as one of our wide receivers. And if I got to get another cheap option, give me a guy. I hate doing this, but I'm going to have to pick Slayton. Just trying to find some guys that are just have really bad matchups. Really good matchups, excuse me, but versus really bad corners. So that's definitely a player that has a matchup versus Swiss cheese secondary. The Seahawks receivers are too expensive. Vikings receivers are too expensive. We can go Jefferson, but he's a little bit more pricey this week because I think people are catching on to him. The Cowboys receivers, they're too pricey. So give me Slayton. Screw it. Let's go cheap at receiver, really cheap. So that's not even those two. You're not even spending $10,000, not even close to spending $10,000 on both of them. So Bridgewater's barely $5,000 too. So hey, you're doing good. You're doing cheap at the other positions. Your running backs are going to be good because they're going to produce no matter what. So just hope that Slayton gets a touchdown. Versus Dallas, look, if Dallas starts blowing them out, I'm pretty confident that the Giants, if the Giants don't score a touchdown versus the Cowboys, if this doesn't happen, then you have to fire the entire coaches, especially Jason Garrett. If you don't fire Jason Garrett, I don't know what the heck you're doing, but there's no way the Giants don't score a touchdown this week. You have to score versus the Cowboys. The Cowboys are going to give you one. They're going to give you one. So if you don't take it, then change the coach, change the quarterback, and just delete the franchise and go home. But they should have done that already. I'm trying to skim through some options here, but that's all I could see in terms of just cheap options of receivers. So we got our quarterback one, 3 running backs, so 2 running backs and then the flex. And then we got our 2 receivers. Tight ends. So we talked about the tight ends. I liked Ian Thomas. You go him. He's pretty cheap. Allie Cox is another really good option. Higbee, I have his name written down, but Higbee, he just seems like since that Eagles game, he hasn't done anything. So I don't know if I really want to trust him. Darren Waller's really expensive. We're trying to go cheap, so he's not a good option. Hunter Henry, he's a mid-range price. But we don't really have the budget for that because we're going cheap. So it's either between Thomas or Allie Cox. Let's go Allie Cox because I think we already got enough Panthers players, right? I would go Thomas, but he doesn't really get the targets like Allie Cox. Allie Cox is going to get a touchdown because the Browns, they don't cover. Phillip Rivers is very tight end friendly, so he's going to get in there. He'll get his one-score game, and hopefully that balances out with the rest of our lineup. So we got everybody. We got kicker. Guys, I don't care. You think I'm going to sit here and try to project guys kicking the ball? Come on. Bridgewater, Hilaire, David Johnson, Robinson, Henderson, Slayton, and then Allie Cox is our tight end. So we need a defense this week. And I already know what the defense is, guys. Well, so we had a trend where we were gonna fade the Redskins, but the Redskins had a little change. They decided Riverboat Ron got a little antsy. Said, "I can't take it anymore. Let me just put in my guy. I can't stand Dwayne Haskins." Is it a surprise? No, Dwayne Haskins can't play, guys. We've said that before. I've said that politely. I've tried to say that on everybody else's show. People are going to say, oh, well, they're racist because they didn't give Dwayne Haskins time to be the ideal quarterback. Guys, it's got nothing to do with that. All right? If they were racist, they would have kept the Redskins' name. All right? The race has nothing to do with any of this. All right? The white owner that drafted him was the only one who was going to pick him in the first round. Like, you guys realize that. He wasn't even good enough to go in the first round. He was the only one that was going to pick him in the first round. The black coach, or Latino, I don't know which one he is, but I know he's not white. I'll tell you that right now. So That has nothing to do with this. Dwayne Haskins is not a good player. He can't anticipate, and he can't lead. He's not a leader. Okay? So when you can't anticipate and you can't lead, you're not a good quarterback. So let's just end that talk. I was sick and tired of hearing that on Twitter, of all these nonsense guys coming out of their underwear saying all that bull crap. But anyway, let's get into the defense of the week. You guys are going to call me Homer. So we got a new team to fade. And it's not even close. I mean, why would you not fade a team with a quarterback who stares down receivers and an offensive coordinator who runs a 90s offense? Like, doesn't that make the perfect sense? Just fade them. Doesn't matter who. Doesn't matter if the Browns, the Colts, the Patriots, the Jets. I don't care. Play and fade the Giants defense. We might go back to fading the Redskins defense, but let's see what Kyle Allen. I want to see what Kyle Allen can do in the week. All right, don't I expect Kyle Allen to come in and be Justin Herbert? No. But he's going to come in and be Kyle Allen, and that's what I think is going to happen. But I want to just make sure. Let's make sure. So let's go with the Cowboys defense this week. I think they're going to perform way better than they did last week. Obviously, the Giants have nowhere near the offensive line the Browns do. They have nowhere near the running backs the Browns do. So I think that'll be a lot easier on Dallas. Their quarterback doesn't challenge anybody. I mean, this will be an easy defensive scheme and play for Dallas. I mean, this is easy. This is the Giants. You don't have to overthink anything. The Giants are going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball right. They're going to run the ball left. And they're going to try to throw a bunch of outside routes with Daniel Jones. That's not going to work. So if I know, I'm telling you guys, if I know what the Giants are going to do, don't you think the Cowboys know? It's simple, guys. Just play the Cowboys defense. Don't look back this week. Call me Homer. Call me an idiot. Call me this. Call me that. Oh, the Cowboys defense is Swiss cheese. I understand that completely. I watched the Browns run for 300 yards on the Cowboys. I get it. They ain't good. But I'm going to tell you right now, they're always good versus the Giants. So get on that Cowboys defense, and that's the lineup of the week. Bridgewater, Hilaire, DJ, Robinson, Robbie Anderson, Darius Slayton, Ali Cox, and Cowboys defense. That's your optimal lineup. Let's get into the lock of the week. Now actually, let's recap. So we're 4-0 in locks of the week. We have week 1, we had the Steelers -6. How were the Steelers? Like, it still mind boggles me. How were the Steelers -6 versus the Giants? That made no sense. So we pounded that week 1. Week 2, we pounded a over 52 in the Cowboys Falcons. The total could have been 65. I still would have bet the over. That was a ridiculous low total. So we took advantage of that. Week 3. Who did we have week 3? I got it right. I almost forgot. Oh, we had the Bucks. So we had the Bucks in week 3. And then last week, week 4, we did the teaser. We did the Ravens teaser with the Browns. And I should have just said, I didn't have the guts to say it, but I should have just said take the Browns straight up. And it would have paid you a plus, I think it would have played you at a plus 180. And would have been great value. So I didn't have the guts to say it, so I went with that teaser, be a little safe. And it worked out either way. So not a good odd, but you're still 4-0. So let's go into this week's lock of the week now. There's a couple games I really like, 3 games I really like for lock of the week. I really, really, really like the Panthers. I think the Panthers are just going to run the Falcons are just so bad. Like, everything, they're bad. Everything. Like, how do the Panthers just not be there? All the Panthers got to do, fellas, we're going to be the toughest team in the world today versus these little you-know-what. That's all they got to say to themselves, and they'll go out and win the game. So I like the Panthers. The more I talk about it when we break this down, I really like the Colts. I think they match up perfect. The Colts' weakness is the Browns' weakness. So the Colts' weakness is they can't really stretch the field with Phillip Rivers. The Browns' weakness is they can't cover. So that's going to help Rivers a lot. The Browns on offense are going to have to deal with the Colts, who rank the number 1 defense in the league right now. And I tell you right now, if the Colts or the Browns think they're going to come out and do what they did versus the Cowboys versus the Colts, they're going to be mistaken pretty quick because they have DeForest Buckner, so that's not going to happen. In terms of what Baker Mayfield's going to do, I think he's going to be lost. I don't trust him at all. I think the Colts will keep it on the ground. They'll try to establish some balance. They're only -2.5. Oh, that looks real good. And then my last one, I think this might be the one that I'm going to give out. Should we do 2 locks of the weeks? Ooh, should we do 2? I don't know. So this is the one I was really liking. Is the over 54 in the Texans Jags. And I mean, let's break this down. Like the Jags defense is run by the same defensive coordinator that Gus Bradley hired. They never changed the defensive coordinator. The same system that's so burnt out. Like that system, the Pete Carroll 4-3, that is so burnt. I mean, Dan Quinn's running it. It's burnt. So it's going to be easy for Deshaun Watson to score on them. Doesn't matter if he doesn't have Hopkins. I'm telling you guys, he could easily score on these guys. So you combine that with the fact that the Texans are pissed off, so they're going to want to put up a lot of points. Texans on defense were just horrible. They were horrible last week. The Vikings did whatever they want to them on offense, ran the ball, moved the ball through the air. Kirk Cousins looked like Joe Montana. I mean, I don't really expect a shutdown defense from the Texans at all. I just don't think they're very good on defense. J.J. Watt, we talked about him. He's pretty much burnt. So they don't have anybody. They don't. So I don't see how this total doesn't go over. I think Gardner will do enough. He'll score at least 21 to do enough to cover this. Do I make it the lock of the week? It's between, guys, it's between that and the Panthers. But I'm going to tell you what. Man, this is really hard. Let's go with the over. I think I like that bet a lot. Let's just take the over 54. I don't see how it doesn't go over. I just don't see. I mean, the Jags and Texans are so bad on defense. They're so bad. So I just don't see how it doesn't go over. So we'll make that the lock of the week. Hopefully we go to 5-0. The goal is 17-0 in locks of the weeks. I don't know if that's going to happen. If it does, then I should start going to Vegas and betting these games. But we're 4-0 so far. So hopefully you guys stick along here. We'll make that over 54 lock of the week. I'll get it on Twitter, get it all sent out. It'll be all handy dandy. So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to get into the weekly rankings. We went over big time. So let's take a break. We'll be back, wrap up the show with some weekly rankings.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. We are going to wrap up the show here with some weekly rankings, giving you the top 10 players at each position. Let's not waste any more time and go into it. I only wanted the last segment to be like 15, 20 minutes. We went up going for almost 25. That happens when you're on radio, man. You just get into tangents and never get off of it. But let's get into quarterbacks. Number 10, Deshaun Watson. We'll go quick here because we already talked about a lot of these guys. So Watson, Jacksonville's defense can't score. We just took the over as the lock of the week. We already explained that. Number 9, Josh Allen. I'm going to tell you what, Josh Allen, he's in the MVP boat. He's been playing that well. I mean, he's in the MVP conversation. And I ripped him a lot in the offseason. I'm going to take credit for that. I ripped him. I said he was inaccurate. His passes down the field aren't good. And I'm telling you what, he is making me eat crow. His passes have improved. His accuracy has improved. I'm telling you what, an accurate Josh Allen will get this Bills team very far because I love the makeup of that team. I think they have a real good shot at the Super Bowl. So we'll go Josh Allen at 9, Joe Burrow at 8. And I know you guys are going to scratch your head. It's the Ravens, but I'm telling you what, Joe Burrow's going to want to show out for this one. So I'm going to give him a spot on the top 10. And I think the Ravens defense, the fact that they let the Redskins come in and get 17, I think that shows that there's a little bit of weakness on that defense. So with the Bengals, they have a lot more weapons. I don't think they're as fast. Well, they're not fast on the outside at all. But, I mean, at least they have Joe Mixon to balance it out. I think Joe Burrow will give you a few tutties. I don't know. I like Joe Burrow this week. I didn't like him a lot on the DFS. I don't have as much confidence, but I'll take him in a year-long league if you don't have another option. 7, Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, it's the Raiders. What's not to like about him? I just don't think the matchup is as good as some of these other matchups, but I'll tell you what, I mean, it's a must-start every week for him. Number 6, Drew Brees versus the Chargers. Chargers, to me, I mean, I was praising their defense the first few weeks, but I'm done doing that after Tom Brady came back and put 6 touchdowns. Old man Tom can put 6 touchdowns on him. I think Drew Brees can do the same thing, or 5 touchdowns, whatever it was. Drew Brees will do the same, so I'll put him at 6. Number 5, Lamar Jackson. With the rushing production he has, he's almost a must-start every single week. The Bengals, I know they're getting Geno Atkins back, but they're horrible on run defense, so I don't know how much Atkins will help at his age. We'll see. But I like Lamar this week. Number 4, Big Ben versus the Eagles. I mean, Big Ben has really gotten back to that Big Ben, so I like him a lot. The Eagles are the Eagles. We all know they ain't good. So they should have a good week versus them. Number 3, Dak Prescott. Dak, it's the Giants. I mean, let's not get into a tangent. Number 2, Kyler Murray versus the Jets. Considering Kyler Murray for the DFS quarterback, but we decided to go Bridgewater and save a little bit of money. So I like Kyler Murray, though. He's a must-start every single week. And then number 1, no other than Russell Wilson versus the Bengals. That's not even worth the freaking discussion. Now let's get into some running backs here. Guys I like this week. Number 10, we're going to go with Chris Carson versus the Minnesota Vikings. I expect everybody on Seattle's offense to do well. Minnesota can't do anything. Run, or stop pass. So Chris Carson will have a nice day versus them. Number 9, Derrick Henry. Versus Buffalo, Henry's the start every week. Versus Buffalo, it would be a little bit challenging, so he's going to come down from his usual top 5 spot into a 9 spot this week. Number 8, James Robinson. We talked about him a lot versus Houston's defense. Houston can't do anything on defense, so I expect him to have a really good game. Number 7, James Conner. He's been picking it up these last couple of weeks, really returning to that workhorse back. So I expect that to continue versus the Eagles. The Eagles had a great win last week, but I don't think that's going to carry over. I think the Steelers will easily beat them. I was considering taking them, but something's telling me don't do it because they're -7. So, we'll stay away from that. But I like James Robinson. I think the Eagles are just overrated. Everything overrated. Number 6, Kareem Hunt. As if he's the number 1 back. He's a little banged up, so I worry about him going into this matchup. But considering that's a really heavy running offense and he's the number 1 running back, he's essentially going to get the same workload as Nick Chubb. I don't see his workload, really decreasing. I know they tried to relegate with Dearness Johnson. Guys, they were pounding the Cowboys in the trenches. You could have put the coach in at running back. He would have gotten yards. It was ridiculous. So versus the Colts, they're not going to be able to do that. So Hunt will get a lot of usage in both the passing and running game. Number 5, Devin Singletary. We talked about him a lot, how I like his matchup every time. He's the number 1 back without Zach Moss. You have to start him because he impacts both the rushing and passing game. Number 4, Mike Davis versus the Falcons. Didn't really pipe him up a lot on the DFS just because I think he's a little too overpriced, but in a year-long league, he's an absolute must-start. Number 3, Zeke. Zeke versus the Giants. Does that really need explanation? Number 2, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We talked about him a lot. He's my number 1 play on DFS this week. And then number 1, I have to put Kamara. I mean, Kamara's numbers have just been ridiculous this year. He's on his way to making himself for an MVP candidate as well. He's just been ridiculous. I don't know if there's anybody that could really cover him. That's how good of a receiver he is. I mean, he's just putting up some crazy, crazy numbers. So let's go into receivers this week. Number 10, DK Metcalf versus the Vikings. Come on. I'm guaranteeing you DK gets a touchdown. Number 9, I'm going to go with Darius Slayton. I like Darius Slayton a lot this week. He's the only problem. I mean, look, I don't think I would consider anybody on the Giants a problem, but, Jason Garrett's a problem to why they're not winning. But Darius Slayton will give some of the Cowboys' defensive backs problems. If he's on Darius Worley or he's on the rookie Diggs, he'll get a play on them. So I think he might get a touchdown and get some yards. I expect him to have a pretty good day. Number 8, Robbie Anderson. We talked about him a lot versus the Falcons. I think there's going to be a play where he just breaks free, wide open, and he'll score, get us some points. Number 7, Devontae Parker. I think he's really up and coming. But Parker versus the Niners. I mean, he's got on paper a bad matchup, but I'm telling you right now, the 49ers, they're on their practice team corners. They're very banged up. They're getting some guys back on the D-line, which might cause a little issues, but I think for Parker's sake, he'll be okay, and he's really doing well. I mean, he's come on really well this year. Number 6, Keenan Allen versus the Saints. The Saints are horrible at corner. I mean, they've been horrible forever. They have Janoris Jenkins still, so I'll never trust them at corner. If hopefully Janoris Jenkins matches up versus Allen. That's all I could say. Number 5, I don't like this, but I have to put Calvin Ridley in there just due to the fact that he was the leading scorer in all receivers up until last week when he put up a donut. I think he'll bounce back this week and try to get some touchdowns or get some garbage time yards or whatever to hold his namesake, if that makes any sense. Number 4, Adam Thielen versus the Seahawks. Great matchup. Seahawks can't cover. I think he'll have a good day versus him easily. Number 3, Amari Cooper at home versus the Giants. Amari Cooper I was considering on the DFS just because the matchup is so dang good, but I mean, he is so expensive, it's not even worth it. And first home in a year-long league, guys, I talked about this before. He's a must-start. Number 2, DeAndre Hopkins versus the Jets. Who the heck on the Jets is going to cover DeAndre Hopkins? He should have like 50 on them. And then number 1, Tyler Lockett. Lockett, he's going to outrun all of those Minnesota corners. Minnesota is one of the worst corner covering teams in the league, if not the worst, besides Dallas. That's all I got on receivers. Now let's go wrap this up with tight ends. Number 10, I got Mo Alley-Cox. We talked about him a lot as my value play. I think he gets a touchdown this week, keeps his touchdown streak going. Number 9, my boy Dalton Schultz. I keep joking, buddy of mine, saying he's Pro Bowl bound, Pro Bowl this. Well, look, he might not be one of the Pro Bowl, but I'm telling you what, he's doing a real good job filling in for Jarwin. And the Giants don't like covering tight ends, so this could be a good game for Dalton Schultz. Number 8, Jordan Akins, tight end on the Texans. I'm just putting him here merely for the fact that the Jaguars don't really care about defense, so why not start every player you have on offense versus the Jaguars. Number 7, Tyler Higbee versus the Redskins. Higbee, I have him here up higher in the rankings than I did in the DFS, but I don't know if I trust him, but I think it's just the matchup's too good. It's one of those where the matchup is too good, so if you have him in a year-long league, you almost have to start him because your option isn't going to be good. Number 6, this is a weird option, but I like him. Eric Ebron. The Eagles aren't good at covering tight ends. I mean, Kittle had 15 receptions for 150 yards. Obviously, Eric Ebron is nowhere near George Kittle, but, I mean, can he get half of that production? Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I mean, we'll see how the Steelers' receivers are going, but the Eagles, I just don't think their defense is very good at all. So he'll have maybe a touchdown and hopefully some red zone targets. Number 5, George Kittle. Does that need explanation? Number 4, Travis Kelce versus the Raiders. That doesn't need explanation. Number 3, I'm going to put Hunter Henry. He's a little bit more expensive in the DFS. That's why I didn't pick him. But Henry he's going to do well versus Saints because the Saints don't cover tight ends. They just don't. I don't know why. Maybe ask Sean Payton, ask Dennis Allen. I don't know why. But the Saints don't like covering tight ends. So I expect Hunter Henry to have a really good game while he's healthy. Number 2, Darren Waller. versus the Chiefs. Talked about him a lot. He's a must-start every single week. And my number one guy this week, I didn't pick him because, again, he's expensive. But I'm going to go with Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith as my number one tight end this week. I mean, versus Buffalo, it's a good matchup. Analytics say it's a really good matchup. He's going to get a ton of targets. And, yeah, I expect him to really do well. So if you got Jonnu, start him. People are catching on to Jonnu now, so he's not really a sleeper anymore. But he's definitely a good player, definitely a player worth playing. So, guys, that's all I got this week. I appreciate you listening, staying tuned, rocking with me this whole time. Please check me out on K Vaughn Show, GSMC_football. Please follow the social media, GSMC_FF football, fantasy football, 2 Fs. If you see the account, you'll see the other account. You'll see all the links for our podcast. You'll see everything, guys. So just please head over to Twitter and follow those accounts. You have to follow. You have to. I'm going to be dropping a ton of content on the GSMC Fantasy Football page. Okay, clips of me talking on the other show. Videos you guys might be interested in of other fantasy football analysts that I like. Little tidbits of analytical notes, stuff like that. Just follow the page, all right? It's not like you got to pay $20. You just follow along. I mean, you're going to actually make money from this stuff rather than pay for something. So tons of great free information on this network, and I don't know why you guys wouldn't want to miss it. So put them notifications on. Go to Twitter. Please follow. We always encourage feedback. I say that every podcast. Please write us a note. If you're following along, write me a note. I don't care, good or bad. I don't care. I just want to know you're listening. That'll mean a lot to me. You could hate the podcast. You could say I'm stupid. You could say I'm a dumb Cowboys fan. You guys think that's like the first time I ever heard that? I don't care. All right? I just want to know you're listening. And more importantly, the people running the network, shout out Tate, shout out Sarah, they're going to be the ones that want to know you're listening, and they're the ones that want the feedback because they're going to be the ones wanting to improve just as much as I am. So, all feedback is encouraged, guys. Please follow the social media. I'm dying over here because I don't have a drink. And I'm not talking about that kind of drink, but you guys get it. Let me get out of here. Let me shut up. It's been over an hour, so you guys heard plenty of me. Follow that social media. Enjoy this football this weekend, guys. Take care. I'm out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.